Hey kids, I'm going to make you grits tonight so you know how to fix them. So I'm going to show you what we've got gathered together. Okay, I've got a saucepan on the stove. I'm starting to warm it up. Over here we got some grits, about 1.5 cups, some cream cheese, some white pepper, some Himalayan sea salt. There's my water from my pan, about 4 cups or so, and some half and half. So I put the water in the pan. I'm going to let it warm up just a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to add a little bit of Himalayan sea salt to it. Season our water. It looks like a lot, but you will need a lot. Grits absorb a lot of that salt, so it takes a while for that to get a good flavor in it. Have it seasoned properly. As soon as that warms up just a little tiny bit, we're going to add our grits and let it start to slowly cook. The key to grits, to make them not gritty, is to let them cook a while. So I'm going to add the grits here in just a moment and let it start to cook. Okay kids, so we got the grits in the water. We're going to add some butter here in a little bit, some unsalted butter. And we're going to, again, stir them every once in a while. They've got to be stirred around. Otherwise, they're going to stick to the bottom of the pan, and we're just going to let them cook. So it's going to take a little bit, so you guys got to be patient. We are still cooking, so I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon, if you can see it there, 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter, and let it continue to cook. It's starting to get thicker. This is when you've got to really watch and make sure that your temperature is not too high so that you let stuff stick to the bottom of your pan. So just keep stirring. So here we are. It's, I don't know, been about 15 minutes, I guess. As you can see, it's starting to thicken, which is good. Okay. To this, we're going to add some cubed up cream cheese. If I can do this one-handed, I don't know if I can or not. We're going to try here. I'm just going to dump that in there very carefully. Might have to just use my fingers there for now. I'm going to put that in there. It's starting to bubble some more on me here. I'm going to keep stirring. So we're going to put the cream cheese in it. Let that melt a little bit. And then we're going to add a little bit of half and half, probably 1/2 cup or so maybe. We'll see how thick it needs to be. So the cream cheese is starting to melt. You can see that that's probably some of the last little chunks that's in there. And as you can tell, it's starting to thick up. And that's what we want it to do. We want it to thicken up some, continue to cooking a little bit. If it gets too thick, you can add, of course, some more water if you want to. If it's still a little gritty, you can let it cook a little longer by adding a little more extra water. And you can add that half and half to it, which will make it even more creamy. And that's what we're going to do now. And then we're going to taste it and see if it needs any more salt and pepper to it. And when you're doing this, make sure that when you stir it, and you don't only stir in the center, but you get around that outside edges, because sometimes it sticks around there or tries to stick. And then it makes it difficult to clean up. So we're going to add some half and half and keep stirring a little bit and do some taste testing. Okay, now if you take a look, see how it's getting kind of thick. I've done a taste test. I've added some more salt, and I've added some more white ground pepper, only because I like the taste of it better than the black ground pepper. And this can be tasted a little bit differently, so you can use whichever one you want. Doesn't matter. The thing I like to do is some people like this different thickness. Some people like it thin, some people like it thick. I kind of like to do a spoon test. And if it kind of holds the spoon up just for a little bit, it's done. And as long as it doesn't taste a little bit on the gritty side, then it's done. You'll have the texture, but you won't have that grit taste. So this is finished. We'll put a little bit more butter on the top of it, just a little bit, and stir it in. But it's ready to serve. I hope you enjoy. Check it out. Isn't that beautiful? Good morning, kids. So we fixed the grits the other morning, and I'm sitting here going like, okay, breakfast is cooking, it's late, it's actually going to probably be brunch. So what do you do with the leftover grits that are now firmly attached to the container that you put them in the refrigerator with? So I'm going to show you. So what I've done so far is I took the grits that I had in the fridge that was in this container here, and I dumped them out onto my cutting board. And I went and got a large chef knife that will go completely through and make a slice. So we're going to slice this up. And we're going to take those slices and put them into this skillet. Now, the skillet looks dirty, true. However, I just finished fixing some bacon for breakfast. So this is all the leftover bacon stuff. I've scraped it off a little bit so it's not going to stick too much to the pan, but as you can see, it's well greased from the bacon. And we're going to take this and slice it up and put it in that skillet as soon as it's hot and fry it up. So what I did is I took the container that we had in the solid form. I cut off the ends because they're not flat. And I just push them aside. I'll end up making a patty out of that. And the rest of them I cut up into hopefully about equal size thickness of slices. I'm going to put those on the griddle because the griddle is now hot. So that's what it's going to be looking like here in just a moment. But I wanted to show you how I got them there. If you pick these guys up, it's going to fall apart. So I have just gently flopped them over onto my side of my chef's knife, and then I use my chef's knife to take and slide them in the griddle. So I'm going to put the rest of them on there now. They're all on the griddle now with a little bit left over. But I peppered them gently and I buttered them just a little bit so that way when I flip them over, they'll be able to get golden brown on the other side. But this is what's left over from the pan. It's crumbly and stuff. But the thing is about cold grits is you can take and fold them and mold them into whatever shape that you want. So I'm going to make some kind of shape out of this that I can slap back onto the griddle as soon as the other ones are done. Well, that did not turn out like I expected it to, but that's still okay. I probably should have made them a little bit wider so that it would fit my spatula, which I'm using to turn them over with, and not put them so close together. But the thing is they're still heating up. This is a lot better than putting them back in another pan and trying to add more milk or more water to soften them so you can eat them. And they'll still be just as tasty. Okay, so sometimes things don't go right when you cook. That's okay. Cooking is supposed to be fun. So what happened while we were gone for just a moment is I did a flip on all the grits, and guess what happened? They kind of fell apart. But the sweet thing about this is while they're still cooking, they're malleable enough to where you could put them back together. So let me show you what I did. Okay, here we are. And as you can see, these are not as brown over here as this part over here, because this part flipped great and that part didn't. So I just took a butter knife here and just kind of reformed them in my skillet, in my griddle here. And I'm going to let them brown a little bit more, and I'm going to flip them puppies again. And if they do it again, that's still okay. This guy here, he's still not quite together yet, but that's okay. This one here, I flipped him, and see what happened? He's like all everywhere. So we're going to fix him too and put him back together and give him another flip. But they're starting to look really good, and they're getting warm all the way through, which is what you want. A lot better than trying to warm them up back in a pan. Well, we are down to 3 plus the big guy that I haven't done yet from the leftovers out of the pan. This is like playing with your food, because every time I flip it, it's some places not quite the way it needs to be, but that's okay. Just take a butter knife and put them back into shape the way you want them and continue to saute them. Here's a few that came out of the pan already. They look really pretty. That one turned out really well and flipped the best out of all of them because I let him get a good sear on the bottom. So that's probably the key to the whole thing. But I'm going to let these guys continue to cook and see what happens with the big guy when I get more spatula underneath of him, because I think that's really the key to it too. The ones that we had out on this griddle are done already. This is the leftovers. And I made it wider. You can see it's about the size of my spatula, which will be great. I buttered a little bit on the bottom side here before I put it back in my griddle. And this thing hit like the applause button as soon as it hit the griddle. It was just singing because the griddle was nice and hot. Put another little bit of butter on top. I'm going to flip this guy here in just a minute and see how it turns out, if it's better than the others. This may be the way to go. Well, there you go. That was a single flip. Whoop. A little bit of extra butter there on the side is being, I'll just kind of scoot that out of the way for a moment. A little bit of extra butter on it, but see, I left that on there until it started to smoke. Gave it a flip, one flip, done. This is the size that you want. Ignore the other ones. Mistakes learned. Okay, so there we have it. 2 different sizes. That one, if you put it in a griddle, make sure you give plenty enough room so you have room to flip. I put mine too close. Lesson learned. This is the size that you want. It was the equivalent to the width of my spatula, which is what I needed for turning. They both turned out great, and they'll be both great to eat. So I hope you enjoy it. Have a blessed day.